we could do better at owning things. There's great amount of talent here. There is such great leadership. But how do people believe that they are talented and they are good leaders? And I think it starts with learning to be accountable. But until we get out of victim mode, we're stuck. We are stuck. We're not going anywhere. So see the problem, own the problem, come up with a solution, and then do it. See it, own it, solve it, do it. Maddie, I think there's a huge difference that people need to figure out. And if you can figure this out, you're going to be fine. It's the difference between willpower and want power. And I don't know how to say it any differently than that. There's plenty of people that want to accomplish X. I want to be a CEO. I want to be my own boss. I want to, be whatever it might be, to be debt free. It doesn't matter. But what are you going to do at the first sign of suckage? Man, this isn't going well.
Yeah.
Hard.
And
and so if I can look back, there was a point in time between a layoff and my CEO gig that I was doing that work for, and you had mentioned it earlier, we talked a little bit about, recruiting and sales, and that I had a little bit of time doing that. And I had worked with a company called Curative, which is owned by a big medical tech company called Doximity.
Yes, familiar, yeah.
And I went in there to work with a friend, and the whole thought is, build this vertical of doing physician leadership. And that was an interesting time. It goes back to the ability to have good relationships. And because of that, I went into an academic facility that I had known. If there's any theme here, never burn bridges.
Yeah, be well connected.
And it doesn't, you don't have to be a certain personality. I mean, if it came down to perfect hair, I'd be fired. It's just... it's just...
We can get you a wig. It's fine.
Yeah. But how do you treat people? What's your expectation? And what are you going to do? What are you going to do going forward in that relationship? Are you going to give without any expectation of getting anything back?
Yeah.
Why do you do something? Is it purely because you expect something in return? It's going to be a very, very frustrating route if that's you became... What'd you say, donut girl, whatever, but that wasn't the intent. The intent was, I'm going to serve. And if people realize that I'm going to go into this relationship with the attitude of serving, then if something comes out of it, fine. But if not, what have you lost?
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. And if you leave a place better than you left it, or then better than when you got there, then that's a win. Even if for you, it might not have been the greatest experience, it was still, it was still something that you can walk away from knowing that you added your best value and your best effort to. And no matter what your title is, no matter how much money you make, that's what's important.
Yeah. And if people are out there thinking, if they're listening to this and they're maybe a bit like me, non-traditional in the sense of, doing what you needed to do at the time, but always having the goal of where you want to go. I had no doubt what I wanted to do. That never left my mind. And I had income goals. I had all sorts of things. That didn't leave. But as I look at the career path, I could look at it and say, oh, okay, that was a straight line to where I wanted to go. But if I took that line and I turned it this way, it would be a Richter scale. It was full of mountains and valleys and disappointments and how are we going to make it? When I had to make my own payroll for my family, man, there were times like, man, how are we going to make it? We made it. We didn't stop. But I guess my advice would be to somebody that's looking at, what am I going to do next? You have to really look and see what are the skills that you need to work on in the next 12 months. Really, what are the 2 or 3 things that you have got to change? And who are you going to ask that's going to be honest enough to tell you what you're missing? And I know for sure one that I'm going to continue to work on right now. And that is going to be continuing, those crucial conversations, or negotiations. And I know myself, right? One of those Shakespeare moments, to thine own self be true. But I know that if I generally find myself more of a pleasing personality, let's work together, let's get it done. Sometimes in the CEO role, that ain't going to fly.
Yeah.
It's like you have got to make a decision and people might not like it and it might not be popular, but you have to do it. So I have taken on and I've continued my study of really the crucial conversations and kind of making some decisions that aren't going to be popular.
Yeah.
And
100%.
They're hard. So for me, that's what it is. What is it for you? What is it for your listeners? But what is the gap that you have to close to get it where it is you want to go? There's two things. I pull our leadership team together, and we just finished reading a great book. I would highly recommend it. It's called the Oz Principle. This wasn't planned, and I have no monetary gain in this. These guys have no idea who I am, but it's all about accountability. We could do better at owning things. It's not somebody else's fault. There's great amount of talent here. There is such great leadership. And part of my job was to say, well, how do people believe that they are talented and they are good leaders? And I think it starts with learning to be accountable. There is nobody to blame. We own it. We got it. But we have told ourselves stories for years, and we've created victim mentality. And we love to believe those stories. But until we get out of victim mode, we're stuck. We are stuck. We're not going anywhere. So this book is just fantastic about helping somebody to see the problem, to own the problem, to come up with a solution, and then to do it. See it, own it, solve it, do it.